Weddings are a lot like funerals. Same seating chart politics, same stiff clothing, same people pretending they like each other. The only difference is at weddings, there's cake and open bars. So, naturally, when my wife Kara dragged me to her best friend's destination wedding in Napa, I smiled, packed a suit, and prepared to fake laugh through 4 days of overpriced cheese platters and forced affection. Kara was the maid of honor, which, in wedding terms, is code for event planner, therapist, emotional sponge, and part-time wine taster. She loved every second of it. She color-coded the bridesmaid dresses. She gave a speech that made the bride cry. She even made a laminated itinerary for me, like I was on a school field trip and not her husband of 8 years. Now, before you get the wrong idea, I didn't go in suspicious. I went in bored. That changed around day 2. We were at the rehearsal dinner. Vineyard patio, string lights, white wine, and more gluten-free options than anyone needed, when I noticed Kara talking to one of the groomsmen. Tall guy, overconfident smile, too much hair product. His name was Brent, or maybe Brock. Something that sounds like a protein shake. Anyway, they weren't just talking. She was leaning in, laughing too hard. Her hand was on his forearm, and not in the friendly, "Huh, you're so funny" way. It was in the "I've already undressed you with my eyes and now I'm working on the buttons" way. Still, I said nothing. I'm not a jealous guy. Jealousy is for people who don't know how to weaponize patience. Later that night, I brought it up, casually, over a shared charcuterie plate in our hotel room. "So, Brent seems nice." She blinked. "Who?" "The groomsman you were chatting up like a rom-com side character." "Oh, him," she laughed. "He was just nervous about his speech. I was helping him practice." I nodded. "Sure." Looked intense. "Don't be ridiculous," she said. "You're not jealous, are you?" There it was. The setup. The trap. Jealous. I grinned. Of a man who unironically wears suspenders and uses the word vibe as a noun? Never. She smiled. Diffused. Or so she thought. The next night was the wedding. Everything looked like an influencer's Pinterest board exploded. Pastel flowers, silk ribbons, personalized cocktail napkins with the couple's initials. I even got a nice photo of Kara and me, her in a champagne-colored dress, me in a tux I hadn't worn since my brother's divorce. But what I really remember is what happened after the ceremony. We were all a little tipsy by then. The speeches had started. Brent got up and gave his little toast. Too long, too emotional, probably stolen from a Reddit thread, and Kara beamed at him like he'd just solved world hunger. I clapped, politely, and then I saw it. After the speech, when he sat down, he gave Kara a hug. Nothing suspicious. Not quite. But when they pulled apart, something small and silver slipped from his jacket pocket, and she caught it. Slick, smooth, reflexive. Like she'd done it before. Hotel keycard. She tucked it into her clutch without blinking. That's when I knew. Now, if this were a movie, I would have stormed out, flipped over a table, and screamed, "How could you?" in the middle of the dance floor. But this isn't a movie. It's real life. And in real life, the best revenge doesn't come from rage. It comes from planning. So I smiled. I danced with her. I kissed her cheek. I let her twirl in her dress and pretend we were fine. And when we got back to the hotel room, the one I now assumed she'd be sneaking out of, I said nothing. Just waited. She didn't leave that night. Maybe because I was awake. Maybe because she was cautious. Doesn't matter. What mattered was that I'd seen the first crack, and I knew how to widen it. Back home, a week later, she was different. Not obvious. Not to anyone else. But to me? Oh yeah. She wore more lipstick. She laughed harder at texts. She had a new ringtone for work friend, which, by the way, is married woman code for man I shouldn't be talking to but am. Then came the kicker. We were having wine on the couch, watching some forgettable Netflix thing, when she turned to me and said, "What do you think about opening our marriage?" I didn't drop my glass. I didn't even blink. "Like sexually?" I asked, as if the phrase "opening our marriage" had other possible meanings. She nodded. Just a little. For fun. Like an experiment. An experiment. Like she was pitching a new skincare routine. I sipped my wine. Interesting. Any reason this comes up now? She hesitated. Just for a second. Then smiled. We're in a good place. I feel like we could handle it. Lie. We weren't in a good place. We were in a wine-soaked pit of betrayal disguised as a living room. But I played along. "Okay," I said. "Let's talk about it more this weekend." She beamed. Kissed me. Said, "You're the best." "Oh, honey. Not yet. That weekend, I suggested we try a little game, something to test boundaries. We'd have drinks, play a couple rounds of truth or dare, and just talk it out. She thought it was fun, thought it was spontaneous, thought she was in control. I poured her wine. Just enough. Set my phone on the kitchen counter. Face down. Recording. We played for a while. Silly stuff, flirty stuff. Then I asked, truth or dare? She smiled. Truth. Have you ever done anything yet? Since we talked about opening things up? She paused, swirled her wine, then said, once. Just like that. One time, she said, while we were in Napa. I thought it'd be a one-off. I didn't think it would matter. Oh, it matters, I said, raising my glass. She didn't ask why. She didn't ask if I was okay. Because she thought I was saying it matters emotionally. She had no idea I meant legally. The next morning, while she slept off her hangover, I uploaded the audio file and attached it to an email. To Madison, the bride. Subject, thought you should know. Attachment, truth_confession, M4A. I didn't write anything in the body. Didn't need to. Madison was Kara's best friend. Her roommate in college. Her maid of honor when we got married. And the bride in Napa. She was also, and this is important, the one Brent had been cheating with before the wedding. How do I know? Because Kara told me during that very same game of truth or dare. I don't feel bad, she had said. Brent and Madison aren't perfect either. He told me he and Madison had this whole thing right before they got engaged. Like, they were sleeping together, and then she gave him an ultimatum. So now he's stuck. I asked her if she'd told Madison. She laughed. I'm not a monster. No, just a coward. You know how you can feel a thunderstorm before it hits? The air gets thick, heavy, like the universe is holding its breath. That was the energy in our house the morning after I emailed Madison, the bride, the betrayed, the woman who, at that very moment, was pressing play on a voice recording of her supposed best friend confessing to sleeping with her husband during their wedding week. Kara didn't suspect a thing. She was humming in the kitchen, making her usual undercooked scrambled eggs, wearing that fluffy blue robe she thought looked cute, but always reminded me of a hotel towel. She poured my coffee like we weren't standing in the middle of a minefield I had just armed. Sleep okay? She asked. Like a baby, I said, smiling into my mug. She gave me that lazy, smug look, the kind people give after they think they've gotten away with something. I looked at her and thought, you really think you're the clever one here, huh? But the thing about cheating is, it's not a one-time crime. It leaves fingerprints everywhere. And Kara? She'd left them all over our life. Madison responded to the email 2 hours later. No words, just a single reply with the subject line. She's dead to me. I didn't reply, didn't need to, but I watched and waited. It only took 24 hours. By the next evening, Kara came home from a yoga class she didn't go to and dropped her bag harder than usual. I didn't look up from my laptop. Everything okay? She was flushed, eyes twitchy. Her voice, when it came, was tight. Did you talk to Madison? I blinked slowly. Why would I talk to Madison? She's not answering my texts. Huh, I said, putting on my best innocent husband face. Maybe she's busy. She did just get married, you know. Her mouth opened, then closed. She started to say something, stopped herself, then went upstairs without another word. Strike one. Strike two came the next day. She was in the living room, pacing in socks, clutching her phone like it was a detonator. She blocked me, she said suddenly. Who? Madison. Oh, she won't answer anything. Instagram, texts, email, nothing. I tilted my head. Weird. Weren't you too? Like inseparable? Kara glared. You had to have said something. I set down my book. Excuse me. Don't play dumb, she snapped. You've been weird ever since the wedding. I gave her a long, slow look. The kind of look that says you really want to go down this road? I've been weird, I said, standing. You're the one asking to open our marriage like we're ordering new curtains. You're the one sneaking off to yoga in full makeup. And now you're panicking because Madison ghosted you? Sounds like a guilty conscience. She froze. You didn't tell her anything, did you? She asked, quieter now. Afraid. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. Because that's when she knew. That I knew. She slept on the couch that night. Not because I told her to. She just knew better. The silence between us was no longer a Cold War. It was a ceasefire under duress. And I was stockpiling nukes. Madison, in the meantime, went full scorched earth. Within a week, her wedding photos were wiped from social media. Her new husband, Brent the groomsman/suspenders model, moved out of their shared condo and into a friend's basement apartment. Her Instagram bio changed from Mrs. Brent Holloway ring #wifelife to Blackheart just trying to survive. Subtle. Kara didn't say anything, but I saw her stalking Madison's profile during one of her not-so-sneaky bathroom breaks. She was unraveling. Quietly. Desperately. Like someone trying to sew a parachute after they've already jumped. One night, she tried to talk. "I think Madison knows something," she said carefully. I stared at her. Something like? She didn't answer. Just picked at the hem of her sleeve like a child caught in a lie. I leaned in. "You mean like the fact that you slept with her husband? The one who gave you the hotel key? The one you told me about during a game you thought I wasn't recording?" She recoiled like I'd slapped her. "You recorded me? I record things when I think I'm being lied to. Comes with the territory." She shook her head. "You're insane." "No," I said calmly. "I'm prepared. There's a difference." The next morning, she packed a bag. Said she was going to clear her head. I said nothing. Watched her walk out the door with her little overnight duffel and her sad, empty eyes. She didn't even ask me to stop her. She knew better. She had walked herself into the fire, and now she wanted me to turn off the smoke alarm. I let the silence ring. Over the next week, she tried a few tactics. Guilt trip. "You're seriously going to throw away our marriage over one mistake?" Denial. "I only did it because I thought you didn't love me anymore." Minimizing. "It was just a kiss. Just one night. It didn't mean anything." Blame shift. "If you hadn't pulled away, I wouldn't have looked for attention elsewhere." I responded to all of them the same way, with silence. Because nothing crushes a manipulator like indifference. Then came the panic phase. She begged me to go to counseling. Offered to cut contact with Brent. Spoiler, too late. Said we could start fresh. I told her the only fresh start I was interested in came with legal papers. That's when she tried the nuclear option. "If you go public with this," she hissed, "I'll tell everyone you're emotionally abusive. That you manipulated me for years. That you're unstable." I just smiled. "You're welcome to try," I said. "But you should know, I kept receipts." The next day, I met with Madison. She asked to talk. Privately. Just us. We met at a cafe halfway between our neighborhoods. Neutral ground. She looked wrecked, like someone who'd just realized the fairy tale was a lie and Prince Charming was screwing the dragon on the side. "I should have seen it," she said quietly. I shrugged. "Love makes us blind. And stupid." She nodded. "I want to ruin them both." I sipped my coffee. "They're doing a fine job of that on their own." Then she leaned in. "There's something you should know." I raised an eyebrow. "Brent told me, back when we were still sleeping together, that Kara used to joke about us ending up in a weird love square." My jaw tightened. He said Kara always teased him about how she was closer to me than he ever was. Said they shared everything. Even me. I stared at her. "You're telling me Kara knew you were sleeping with Brent and slept with him anyway?" Madison nodded. She said it was only fair. That I'd had my turn. Like I was borrowing him. Suddenly, everything made sense. The fake laughs. The open marriage suggestion. The smug smile after Napa. She didn't think she was cheating. She thought she was evening the score. That night, I confronted her. Not with yelling. Not with threats. I simply walked into the kitchen, dropped a flash drive on the counter, and said, "This has the recording. The text messages. The emails. Every time you lied, in your own words." She stared at it like it was a bomb. "Mark, I'm not using it," I said. "Not unless you make me." She swallowed. "What do you want?" "I want you gone," I said. Quietly. Cleanly. "I want the house. I want peace. And I want you to stop pretending you're the victim." She hesitated. "And if I say no?" I smiled. Then the bride gets her sequel. The day after Kara moved out, the house felt like it exhaled. Not in the dramatic, haunted mansion sheds its curse kind of way. No theatrics. Just little things. The way the air seemed lighter, the absence of tension in every room. The fridge finally staying organized. For the first time in months, I could open a drawer without finding a passive-aggressive post-it on a bag of trail, mix reminding me to shop less emotionally. There was no real closure. She didn't leave a note. Didn't slam the door. Just packed her things while I was at work and texted me a bland line that read, "I'll pick up the rest next weekend." I didn't reply. We were way past texts that meant anything. Still, endings are strange. Even when you see them coming from a mile away, they hit you sideways. And when betrayal is involved, especially betrayal wrapped in a silk dress with wine-stained lips and a hotel key tucked in a clutch. It doesn't leave a clean break. It leaves scar tissue, deep, twisted, and in my case, it left a trail. Because Kara didn't just cheat. She colluded. She coordinated. She made a game out of it. And the more I uncovered, the more I realized the wedding wasn't where it started. It was just where I caught her. Let's rewind for a second. You remember Brent, the suspenders-wearing, speech-reciting, emotionally constipated groomsman who slept with my wife during his own brother's wedding? Yeah, that guy? Well, after Kara left, I did what any man with a healthy amount of spite and too much time on his hands would do. I started digging. Emails, photos, shared cloud drives we both forgot were still linked. One rainy Tuesday night, while waiting for a frozen pizza to crisp up, I stumbled across something enlightening. A photo folder titled June Planning, Wine Weekend. It wasn't locked, because Kara, for all her emotional manipulation skills, was absolute trash at digital hygiene. Inside the folder? Screenshots. Dozens of them. Flight itineraries. Reservation confirmations. And texts. Oh, the texts. Text. Kara Ritero Brent. She still hasn't picked a theme, lol. God help me if she goes rustic vineyard again, weary face. Brent Ritero Kara. I'll make it worth your while, winking face. Kara Ritero Brent. You better. Or I'm calling off my dress fitting. Cute. They weren't just sleeping together. They were planning the wedding together behind Madison's back, commenting on flower arrangements like a secret couple hosting their own twisted parody of a bridal shower. But it didn't stop there. There was one message that finally made me pause. Brent Ritero Kara. Madison thinks she's in control, but we're the real couple. You and me. Always have been. Always have been. Now, that was interesting. I screenshotted everything. Not out of rage. I'd burned through that long ago. Out of curiosity. Because something didn't add up. Brent didn't seem like the kind of guy Kara would attach herself to long-term. He was too loud, too flashy. She liked control. And he was chaos. So why keep him around? Why keep choosing him? That question got answered 2 days later. Sandra. Yes, that's Sandra, the divorce lawyer who helped me nuke the last situation, had agreed to handle my case this time too. I trusted her. More than that, I respected her ability to surgically dismantle a marriage with one hand while sipping an oat milk latte in the other. She called me out of the blue. You might want to sit down, she said. Never a good opener. I was already sitting. What is it? I pulled some financials. Part of our discovery. Credit card history, joint accounts, all that. And there were 2 payments made from your joint card to a private investigator's office. My pulse ticked up. When? One about 8 months ago. The other, around the time of Madison's bachelorette party. I blinked. Why the hell would Kara hire a PI? That's what I asked, Sanders said. So I dug deeper. Want to guess who the investigator was following? Me? Nope. Madison? Bingo. I went cold. She was having her followed? Not just followed, Sanders said. Watched. Photos, logs, timestamps. I got the invoice list. Kara was having Madison tailed. For months. Why? That's what we're about to find out. I confronted Kara at her sister's condo the next day. She opened the door with her hair up and a fake smile like we were about to play nice. I wasn't in the mood. Why did you hire someone to spy on Madison? I asked. No hello. No small talk. Her face dropped like a bad poker hand. You went through my finances? You're not answering the question. She opened her mouth, closed it, then said, it was just a precaution. Precaution for what? She was your best friend. Kara leaned against the doorframe. You wouldn't understand. Try me. She folded her arms. I knew Brent had a thing for her. I wanted to know if she felt the same. So you had her followed? I wanted to protect him, she said. I laughed, sharp, bitter. Protect him? You were sleeping with him behind Madison's back. Behind my back. What exactly were you protecting him from? She didn't answer, just looked away. And then I saw it. Not guilt. Not shame. Jealousy. She wanted Brent to be hers. Fully. Exclusively. But she couldn't control him. So she tried to control Madison. She'd hoped Madison would screw up. She'd hoped to catch her in something scandalous. Something that would give Kara a moral excuse to swoop in and claim Brent as stolen property. But it never happened. So she created her own scandal instead. She became the affair. I didn't say any of that out loud. Didn't need to. I just nodded, stepped back, and said, thanks. That's all I needed. She called after me. Mark, Please, don't make this worse than it already is. I turned around. Kara, you haven't seen worse yet. Later that night, I sent Madison another email. Subject line: read this before you finalize anything. I attached the screenshots, the texts, the PI invoices, everything. I figured she deserved the full picture. No more lies. No more half-truths. No more people protecting each other while stabbing each other in the back. 20 minutes later, she replied, I just filed. You're a damn hero. Drinks on me when this is over. I smiled. Not because I wanted revenge anymore. Because I wanted closure. And I was one step closer. But just when I thought the drama was dying down, Brent showed up at my house. Not a call. Not a text. Just a knock on the door at 10:43 p.m. I opened it to find him standing there, shirt half untucked, eyes glassy with either whiskey or stupidity. We need to talk, he slurred. I stared at him. No, Brent. You need to leave. I didn't know, he said. She told me. She told me it was over between you two. I stepped outside and shut the door behind me. You thought it was over, so you slept with your new wife's best friend in the middle of her wedding weekend? He shook his head. It wasn't like that. I tilted my head. Tell me how it was, then. Silence. He couldn't. Because there's only one way to describe what he did. Pathetic. I didn't punch him. Didn't scream. Didn't record him for some dramatic YouTube clip. I just said, you deserve each other. Then I closed the door and left him in the dark, where he belongs. Brent didn't leave right away. He lingered on my porch like a wet newspaper, useless, awkward, and making a mess of the welcome mat. I watched him through the peephole for a minute or two. He paced. He muttered something to himself. Then he slumped down on the top step and buried his face in his hands like the world had just personally victimized him. Eventually, he stumbled back to his car and drove off, probably to whatever couch was currently tolerating him. I didn't feel triumphant, not even smug. Mostly, I felt tired. Tired of all the pretending, the forced small talk, the fake apologies, the delusions of innocence from people who lit the match and then acted shocked when the house burned down. But now I had clarity. Kara had been playing a game long before Napa. And Brent? He was just the kind of idiot who thought being fought over meant he was special, not just convenient. The next morning, I made coffee like usual. The kitchen was quiet, calm. No clutter on the counters. No lipstick-stained mugs. Just peace. I sat down at the table and pulled up the email from Madison again. Drinks on me when this is over. It stuck with me. Because this whole time, it had felt like I was unraveling a personal betrayal. A marital implosion. But the truth was, it was bigger than that. Kara hadn't just cheated on me. She'd betrayed Madison. She'd violated a friendship that had lasted longer than our marriage. And Brent? He'd been cheating on Madison for months, maybe years, while smiling for engagement photos and writing vows about soulmates. That's the part they never talk about in wedding speeches. How sometimes your forever is already lying to you during the cake tasting. I texted Madison that afternoon. Me? Free tonight? Madison? If there's wine, yes. If there's more secrets, double yes. We agreed to meet at a low-key wine bar across town. Neutral ground. Fewer chances of running into Kara's circle. I got there first. Sat in a booth near the back and ordered 2 glasses of a red I couldn't pronounce. She arrived 10 minutes later, wearing sunglasses even though it was almost dusk. The universal uniform for, please don't talk to me unless you want to lose teeth. She slid into the booth with a sigh. God, I thought we were dramatic in college. But this is Olympic-level betrayal. I raised my glass. To the gold medalists. We clinked glasses. For a moment, we just sat in silence, drinking. There was no tension. Just 2 people who'd been sucker-punched by the people closest to them. Madison broke the silence first. Do you think they planned it? I gave her a look. You mean Kara and Brent? She nodded. Like, was this some twisted long con? Was I the idiot bride who never saw it coming? I shook my head. I don't think they're that smart. She laughed. Agreed. But I do think they were feeding off each other, I said. Brent got to be the charming victim. Kara got to be the misunderstood wife. And they both got to pretend their selfishness was justified. She sipped her wine. God, I was going to start a family with that man. You dodged a bullet. She gave me a sideways glance. So did you. I nodded. Feels more like I stepped on it and had to dig it out with a spoon. But sure. We ended up talking for 3 hours. About everything. The wedding. The signs we ignored. The gut feelings we buried under trust and guilt. And I'm probably just overthinking. By the time we finished the bottle, we were laughing. Not because anything was funny, but because what else could we do? We were the collateral damage. The side characters in someone else's twisted love story. Only now, we were rewriting it. Madison leaned back in her seat. So what now? I shrugged. Divorce goes through in 3 weeks. I get the house. She gets whatever's left of her self-respect. You think she'll end up with Brent? I laughed. If she does, they deserve each other. Let them spend the rest of their lives gaslighting each other about what counts as cheating. She grinned. Amen. Then she grew serious. You think you'll ever tell her? Tell who? She hesitated. Kara. About the rest of it. The PI. The texts. The photos. I sat with that for a second. I don't need to, I said finally. She knows what she did. That's punishment enough. Madison nodded slowly. You're a better person than me. Probably not, I said. But I'm done wasting energy on people who'd set fire to the house and then ask why it's hot. She smiled at that. We paid the bill and stepped outside. Before she got into her car, she turned to me and said, You ever want to get a drink again, for non-trauma reasons, you know where to find me. I nodded. Likewise. She got in, drove off, and I stood there for a second, letting the cool evening air settle around me. I wish I could say that was the end. But Kara had one more trick up her sleeve. And, of course, she saved it for the last minute. A week before our divorce was finalized, I got a knock on the door. Not a text. Not an email. A knock. She stood there with her hair curled and makeup done, holding a manila envelope like it contained the secrets of the universe. I need to talk to you, she said. I didn't move. Is it legally necessary? Just 5 minutes. I let her in. Not because I wanted to, but because I was curious. And curiosity, as always, is how the trouble starts. She sat on the couch, crossed her legs, and handed me the envelope. I opened it. Inside, a letter. Typed. Neat margins. Labeled, For When You Hate Me. I looked up at her. What is this? I wrote it a few months ago, she said. Before Napa. Before everything. I didn't know if I'd ever give it to you. I scanned the first paragraph. It was emotional. Dramatic. Full of phrases like, I never meant to become this version of myself. And you deserved a better wife than me. I folded it back up. I don't need this, I said quietly. She flinched. Please, just read it. I know I can't fix anything, but you should at least know why. I sighed. Kara, I already do know why. She looked confused. So I continued. You wanted more. You thought love was supposed to feel like a constant high. You got bored. You wanted chaos dressed as excitement. You thought infidelity was empowerment. And now that it's blown up in your face, you're trying to rebrand it as self-discovery. She opened her mouth. I raised a hand. Don't. This letter? It's not for me. It's for you. A little time capsule of guilt to convince yourself you were human when you were busy being a hurricane. She went quiet. I handed it back. She didn't take it. So I dropped it on the coffee table. Goodbye, Kara. She stood. Slowly. You're not going to forgive me, are you? No, I said. And the fact that you thought that was even on the table tells me you're still not sorry. You're just uncomfortable. She didn't cry. Didn't beg. Just nodded. And left. The divorce went through the following Friday. Clean. Uncontested. Sandra texted me a single word. Done. I poured myself a whiskey. No celebration. No fanfare. Just peace. And that was more than enough. Divorce papers aren't dramatic. They don't explode into glitter or arrive with some grand, karmic thunderclap. They're just papers. Boring, bland, legalese-ridden pages that say, Hey, remember that thing you built over a decade? Yeah, it's dead. Sign here. I signed. Digitally. In under 3 minutes. That's all it took to wipe out 8 years, 3 shared bank accounts, a French bulldog we rehomed during lockdown, and a joint Spotify playlist with way too many romantic acoustic tracks. And when it was done, actually done, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't call anyone. I just sat on the couch. It was a Tuesday. There was laundry in the dryer and leftover pizza in the fridge. The world didn't stop. But I did. For a moment. And it hit me. Kara wasn't coming back. Not in the dramatic, desperate, standing in the rain on my doorstep kind of way. Not in the apologetic, I've changed, text at 2:14 a.m. She was really gone. And I was really alone. But here's the thing most people don't tell you about alone. It's not always lonely. Sometimes it's a relief. Like walking out of a loud party and realizing you can hear yourself think again. That week, I cleaned the house top to bottom, purged drawers, donated clothes, replaced every framed photo of us with something that didn't make me want to punch drywall. I deleted the shared photo albums, blocked her on social media, changed the Wi-Fi name from Karen Mark Forever to Pretty Decent Wi-Fi. Symbolic, maybe, but it helped. A few days later, Madison texted again. Madison, so, what's it feel like to be officially free? Me, like a balloon that just escaped a wedding arch. Madison, LOL. Want to celebrate? Me, you buying? Madison, always. We met at the same wine bar. New bottle, new booth. Same sense of shared exhaustion from having our lives detonated by people who probably still believe they were the victims. This time, Madison looked different. Lighter. She'd chopped off several inches of hair and swapped the solemn black sweater for a loose denim jacket over a sunflower yellow top. How's post-wedding life treating you? I asked. She rolled her eyes. Let's see. My ex-husband is living with his brother. My mother still thinks I should forgive and focus on babies. And I got hit on by a barista half my age last week. I raised a glass. Progress. We drank. We joked. We flirted, subtly, but it was there. A warmth that wasn't there before. Then she got quiet. I want to ask you something, and I don't want you to take it the wrong way. I set my glass down. Okay, why didn't you completely torch her? I paused. You mean Kara? She nodded. You had her. Dead to rights. You could have posted the recording, shared the texts, forwarded her emails to her boss. You could have ruined her. I took a long breath. I could have, I said, and I wanted to, for about 5 minutes. But then I remembered what that would make me. I'd still be tied to her, still reacting to her, still giving her power. Madison studied me. That's what Brent's doing now, I added. Her face changed, sharpened. What do you mean? I hesitated, then pulled out my phone and opened an email I hadn't shared with anyone yet. It was from Brent, sent 2 nights prior. Subject line, you're not as smart as you think. He'd written a full-on monologue about how I manipulated Madison, how I turned her into a weapon, how I sabotaged a real connection. The email ended with a beautiful gem. Enjoy your little post-divorce victory lap. But remember, you didn't win. You just outweighted the explosion. I showed it to Madison. She read it, then laughed so hard she nearly snorted her wine. He's unhinged, she said, wiping a tear. Like, actually delusional. I thought about responding, I said. But then I realized, this is his response. He's already lost. And now he's narrating his own downfall. She shook her head. God, I was going to marry that man. I let him put a ring on my finger. You didn't know? I didn't know, she said. I just didn't want to believe it. I nodded. We sat in silence for a while. Then she asked, so what now? I shrugged. Now we live. Rebuild. Date people who aren't sociopaths. She smiled. You ever think about dating, you know? I raised an eyebrow. Are you about to ask if I want to date you? She laughed. I'm asking if you've thought about it. I leaned back. In theory, sure. But in practice? We'd probably kill each other. Or, she said, we'd finally be with someone who gets it. There was a pause. Then I said, you want to get out of here? She nodded. God, yes. We didn't hook up that night. That would have been too easy. Too fast. Too much like something Kara would do. Instead, we went to a diner. Split fries. Talked about our first relationships, bad tattoos, childhood crushes, favorite movies. It felt normal, safe, real. And I realized something important as we sat in that sticky booth under fluorescent lights at 1 a.m. This was the first time in years I wasn't performing. Not for a spouse. Not for in-laws. Not for mutual friends trying to figure out which one of us snapped. Just me. With someone who knew exactly what it felt like to be betrayed, humiliated, and still show up the next day and make your own damn coffee. Kara did end up reaching out again. Of course she did. 2 weeks after the divorce, I got a long email titled, For Closure. It was 3 paragraphs of nothing. Apologies without action. Regret without accountability. A line about how she wasn't in the right headspace, followed by a passive suggestion that maybe we could talk sometime as friends. I didn't reply, because when people say they want closure, what they really want is a response. And Kara? She didn't deserve one. Instead, I focused on my life, reclaiming it, rewriting it. I redecorated the house, got rid of all the beige throw pillows and motivational wall art. I stopped pretending to like her weird vegan chili. I put my wedding suit in the donation bin. I learned how to cook for one, then for two. And slowly, with no grand announcements or Facebook status updates, I started seeing Madison. Not in the, oh my God, rebound romance kind of way. In the let's see where this goes kind of way. We took it slow. She met my coworkers before my parents. We went to bookstores instead of bars. We told each other the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. Especially when it was uncomfortable. And that was the biggest difference. Because with Kara, the truth had always been something to manage. A weapon. A currency. But with Madison, it was a foundation. I don't believe in soulmates anymore. But I do believe in second chances. And sometimes, they come in the form of someone else's maid of honor, holding a glass of wine and the same broken heart. Here's the thing no one tells you about moving on. It doesn't feel like a single, glorious moment. It's not cinematic. There's no slow-motion scene of you throwing out the last picture frame or dramatically walking away from the house you used to share. There's no Oscar-worthy monologue about reclaiming your life. It just happens, slowly, clumsily, and with a lot of second-guessing. At first, I wasn't even sure what Madison and I were. Were we dating? Trauma bonding? Rebuilding something? Or just holding each other upright while the emotional hangover wore off? She wasn't Kara. I wasn't Brent. And that was the damn point. We weren't pretending. We weren't gaslighting each other. We weren't keeping score. It was just two people, both previously lied to, finally sitting at the same table with nothing to hide. The first time she stayed over, she brought a bottle of wine and a backpack with a t-shirt, a book, and a toothbrush. That's it. No makeup bag. No drama. When she left the next morning, she didn't say, "I'll call you." She said, "Thanks for not pretending this is something it's not." That's when I realized it actually was something. Meanwhile, Kara's last attempt at relevance came through a mutual friend. It was a wedding invitation. Not hers, thank God. One of those mutual couple friends. The ones who pretend to stay neutral after your divorce, but definitely still follow your ex on Instagram and accidentally, like their old photos. Kara was listed as a bridesmaid. I was invited solo. It was a subtle little reminder that in the Venn diagram of post-divorce social circles, there's always overlap. Someone always thinks you can be mature and show up to the same events like you didn't catch your wife with a groomsman's hotel key in her clutch. Madison and I laughed about it. Then RSVP'd no. We weren't in the mood for another vineyard. 3 months after the divorce, I finally let myself go through the last of the shared boxes in the garage. You know the kind. The ones you keep sealed because opening them means admitting something's over. Inside were the typical things. Old holiday cards, photo booth strips from weddings, a few dusty wine glasses etched with Mr. and Mrs., and a candle from our honeymoon that smelled like lavender and lies. But then I found something I wasn't expecting. A journal. Not mine. Kara's. It wasn't labeled. No sparkly cover or key lock. Just a plain black moleskine. I almost didn't open it. Thought maybe it'd just be shopping lists or bad poetry. But curiosity won. And page 3 stopped me cold. Sometimes I wish Mark would get mad. Just once. Yell at me. Slam a door. Show me he cares. But he doesn't. He just waits. Watches. Like he's already halfway gone. I stared at the sentence for a long time. Because that wasn't guilt. That was projection. She hadn't needed me to fight for her. She needed me to mirror her chaos, to make her feel better about the emotional grenades she kept lobbing. If I had screamed or thrown a lamp, she could have said, "See? He's crazy." I had no choice. But I didn't. I just waited. And that drove her insane. I tossed the journal into the donation bin without reading another word. Somewhere, someone at Goodwill is probably confused about why page 32 has a sketch of a wedding dress and the words, "Does he even love me?" written in glitter pen. Let them wonder. Madison and I took a trip that spring. Not to Napa. Not to a vineyard. Just a small cabin near a lake. No reception. No cameras. No curated Instagram stories. We fished. We hiked. We slept like rocks and woke up with messy hair and coffee breath. And one night, as we sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket, she said something I'll never forget. "You know what I love about this?" she asked, staring at the water. "What?" "There's no pressure to be anything. No script. No pretending we're okay if we're not." I nodded. Then she said, "You think we would have been friends if all this hadn't happened?" I thought about it. Probably not. She was always Kara's friend. And I was the husband. We existed in adjacent social circles, not overlapping ones. Our lives were organized around other people's schedules, weddings, and friend groups. We were set pieces in someone else's sitcom. And now, we were the writers. The day Kara tried to re-enter my life came on a Thursday. Because of course it did. Thursday, the most forgettable day of the week. A liminal space. A place for people who don't belong in the weekend anymore. She called from an unknown number. I didn't pick up. Then she texted, "Hey, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I thought you should know I'm moving. Starting over. No drama. Just wanted to say thank you for being kind when I didn't deserve it." I stared at it for a moment, then typed, "Good luck." And that was it. No bridge burning. No second chances. Just a punctuation mark at the end of a long, messy sentence. Sometimes, people ask how I managed to stay so calm. Weren't you furious? Didn't you want to ruin her? Why didn't you go full scorched earth? The answer's simple. Because I didn't need to. She did it herself. She thought betrayal was power. That infidelity was a flex. That chaos meant control. And in the end, all she did was light the match and realized too late that she was standing in the gasoline. A year later, I got a save the date from Madison's younger sister. It came with a little handwritten note that said, "You're allowed to bring a +1 this time. Just not someone else's husband." Winky face. We laughed about it over breakfast. Madison had moved in by then. Brought her own coffee maker, a huge fuzzy blanket that made the couch feel like a cloud, and an entire shelf of true crime books that she swore were just research. We still took it slow. Still told each other the truth. Still held space for the scars the others left behind. But here's the difference. We didn't walk on eggshells. We didn't perform. We just showed up. Every day. As ourselves. So if you're reading this because you've been lied to, cheated on, betrayed by someone who swore they'd never hurt you, know this. You don't need to scream. You don't need to fight. You don't need to win. You just need to tell the truth, even if it's only to yourself, and wait. Because liars always trip over their own stories. And when they do, you won't need revenge. You'll already be free. The end. Subscribe to the channel